A warm welcome to all our viewers today. I'm your host Saqib Malik and you're watching GK Web TV. It's been a year since abrogation of Article 370 took place in Jammu and Kashmir. A lot has been spoken and written about it. Joining us today on the show is none other than former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister and National Conference Vice President Mr. Omar Abdullah. Thank you for joining us. As I sit here, the first question that comes to my mind is, you now have an institutional memory of 3 generations, from your grandfather to your father and now you. Would you like to sum up the learnings and experiences? And secondly, it's very hard to make a comparison, but any similarities, differences vis-a-vis the last 70 years, if you can assess that.
Well, I don't think you have nearly enough time for me to assess one generation, much less 3 generations. You're talking about decades of politics, both as an activist and in administration. So I think a summary of 3 generations is perhaps a conversation for another day. Are there similarities? Of course there are. I think all 3 generations have felt a sense of betrayal. All 3 generations have felt let down, that promises made were promises broken. All 3 generations now have been detained at the behest of the government of the day. In my grandfather's time, for significantly longer, my father and myself, and the most draconian laws available at the time have been used to keep us in custody. So there are similarities, but of course there are differences. The crucial difference perhaps being that my grandfather in his heyday was the undisputed ruler over people's hearts. I won't talk about politics, but he certainly commanded people's love and affection to a far greater degree than my father, even though he had great days in the 70s and the 80s. And I have not seen nearly anything like that. So similarities, differences, but at least the one common thread runs through us, which is our commitment to do the best that we can for the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
It is a well-established fact that Article 370 had been completely diluted and there was very less value left in it. A lot of people have gone ahead to say that. But you are keeping everything in store for Article 370. Do you think at a time when people say Article 370 gis gaya tha and nothing had been left in it, what do you think is then significant in it?
You know, I can understand people outside of Jammu and Kashmir saying that. But if that is the general sentiment of the people in Kashmir, then please explain to me the anger amongst people after 5th August 2019, the spontaneous shutdown. People didn't open their shops, people didn't ply their vehicles, public transport remained off the roads of people's own free will, nobody forced them. People didn't agree to send their children to school. So if the general sentiment was कि Article 370 खोखला था, घिसते घिस गया, इसमें कुछ नहीं था, then there would have been sort of not even a muted reaction. People would have gone ahead with their lives as normal and said, it makes no difference to us. Why all this commentary? Why the need for curfew today? We're 1 day short of a year anniversary of what happened in 2019. If Article 370 was hollowed out to such an extent that there was no relationship between 370 and the people, then why curfew? Why no 4G connectivity? There are so many things. Article 370 was not hollowed out. Yes, it had been weakened. It had been weakened to a great extent, but it still wasn't hollow. Your state subject laws were linked to 370. Today, you have a domicile law that is in name only. It is so weak that it is of no consequence. Your delimitation, the fact that we were able to put a constitutional hold on delimitation until 2026 was linked to 370. Even symbols are important. The fact that you were able to fly your own flag, it was symbolic of the special status that Jammu and Kashmir enjoyed. The fact that laws passed by the centre weren't automatically applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. You had to make a choice to apply those laws to Jammu and Kashmir. These were all sort of remnants of 370. So yes, while some visible signs of it, like the nomenclature for the chief minister and the governor, may have changed, a lot of substance still remained in 370. Otherwise, why did Parliament have to do what it did last year?
The fact that, it's the Supreme Court now, what are your expectations from the Supreme Court? What is your instinctive reaction to it? Are you optimistic about it? And what if the Supreme Court upholds the decision of Government of India?
We obviously attach great faith in our own case and the strength of our case and in the wisdom of the Supreme Court to see that what we are saying is both right in law and in terms of the Constitution. We are making a very basic and very simple case, which is that the governor, a nominated representative of the centre, cannot take the powers of the assembly and in turn claim that because there is no constituent assembly, the assembly will function like a constituent assembly. So we believe that the very basis for what happened on the 5th of August is flawed. And that is the case we will take to the Supreme Court. Am I optimistic? Cautiously so. I believe we have a very strong case. I believe that the petition, particularly the one filed by the National Conference, is an extremely well drafted and very strong petition. And I'm hopeful that the Supreme Court will give us the justice that we have no other avenue of achieving.
Mr. Abdullah, do you think it was a game plan of BJP to convert Jammu and Kashmir state into a union territory? Because what has happened now is a lot of people are busy and focused to bring back the statehood, while the Article 370 issue seems to be somewhat on a back burner now. So was it a game plan of BJP because they're trying to keep the doors open? It's being believed that a year later or 2 years later, statehood will come back. So you think somewhere this was a part of the game plan of BJP?
There may be some who are willing to compromise that statehood is enough and they don't want more than that. I've seen statements from political parties that have suggested that as long as statehood comes back, they won't fight for more. National Conference is not that party. We have never said that all we want is statehood. We have not put 370 on the back burner. In fact, 370 could not be on a stronger burner for us. It is the front and center issue as far as National Conference is concerned. So this attempt that is being made to hoodwink people or to confuse people or to twist what I have said as if to suggest that somehow we will be satisfied with statehood and nothing else could not be further from the truth. As far as we are concerned, statehood is just an offshoot of what happened on the 5th of August 2019, and we oppose all the changes that were made. Our fight is not for statehood. Our fight is to reverse everything that happened on 2019 August 5th and subsequently.
What is your take on the Delimitation Commission? I understand your members of Parliament have not joined the commission, but that doesn't prevent the commission from going ahead and taking a decision to announce its award as and when it happens. What is your view on the Delimitation Commission, and does National Conference hold a view on it?
Well, the way you've worded the question, it allows people to make the assumption that the presence of the National Conference would somehow have stopped the Delimitation Commission from announcing its award. The fact is that the National Conference members would not have had the power to veto any of the proposals of the Delimitation Commission. In fact, if anything, their presence would have acted purely as a rubber stamp, because the Commission would have done what the Commission wanted to do. The National Conference members would have been able to give their inputs, but that's all they would have been, inputs. They would not have been binding on the Commission. But more importantly, the Commission is the product of what happened on 5th August 2019. When we don't accept the very basis of what happened, how can we accept the Delimitation Commission? We don't recognize the Delimitation Commission. We don't accept the Delimitation Commission. We are fighting against the root from which the Delimitation Commission has germinated. So there is no question of participating in a process that we believe is flawed from its inception.
This last 1 year was one in itself. How has this last 1 year changed you as a politician, as a person?
Well, I mean, I guess it's true for most of us, if not all of us. We're less trusting. We are less willing to accept that there is honesty in what is told to us. We are less willing to accept that words given will be kept. Sovereign commitments made by the Union of India with the people of Jammu and Kashmir have not been kept. So who am I, or who is any other individual? So as a person, I'm more disappointed, I'm less optimistic, I'm more, I guess, bitter, and I'm less trusting, but that's a natural reaction to what happened last year.
The fact that Mehbooba Mufti is still under detention, and you have yourself very strongly been supporting her release, at least on the social media. This comes at a time when a lot of political leaders like Sajjad Loan, yourself, and several other leaders have been let go of, have been let off. So I'll complete my question.
I think Sajjad Loan would disagree with the very premise of your question, because if he was let out, why is he not out? I mean, apparently he was told you're out, but you can't leave your house. Well, that's hardly out. All of us have some form of restrictions placed on our movement now at the moment. But yes, Mehbooba Mufti, unlike the others, is under formal detention, which we believe is wrong, and we were hopeful that by now the Supreme Court would have struck down her detention. And because, look,
now, outside there are a lot of people talking about the fact that so and so people are out, but Mehbooba Mufti is under detention. Why is she still under? What do you think is people's perception? Because what people's perception, especially, how does it impact people's perception? The fact that a dozen political leaders set free from detention in the last couple of months, but Mehbooba Mufti is still under detention.
Look, most of us, I mean, a lot of us fought for our freedom. It wasn't granted to us as a gift. We fought for it. I put together the best legal team possible, and I took my case to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court basically told the administration here, looking at my detention documents, that if I'm not set free, they will pass an order. And the court was left with no choice. I mean, the government was left with no choice but to overturn my detention. The same is true for Ali Mohammed Sagar Saab. Nobody did him a favor. He went to the High Court against advice, and he fought his detention, and the High Court overturned his PSA detention. The same is true for, there are other people who've had their detentions overturned. The former Bar Association president, whose PSA detention was struck down by the Supreme Court. Did anybody do him a favor? Nobody did him a favor. And I can name others also. That's why we have gone to the J&K High Court with 16 petitions for those leaders of the National Conference who are under house arrest. The fact is, unless you put up a strong fight against your detention, nobody is going to do you any favors.
No, but where was the strong fight of the mainstream parties in the run-up to August 2019? A lot of civil society... a lot of civil society, bar, they were trying to create awareness, they were trying to save the special status. Nobody from the mainstream...
You cannot take a case to the Supreme Court that has not happened. What would you take to the Supreme Court? Your fear. No, please, I mean, I'm not a lawyer. Maybe you're not either. But please, I mean, basic logic would tell me that if a decision has not been taken, you can't file a case against the decision. So I mean, if somebody is trying to tell you that civil society was trying to raise awareness, who raised more awareness than us? Which political parties in the mainstream were lacking in raising awareness, in talking about this? We were talking about the threat to J&K special status and 35A while the PDP and the BJP were still in government together. I still remember my speech in the assembly where I warned what threat there was to J&K special status at the hands of the BJP. So please don't selectively choose what you believe to be a fact and what you don't. The truth is that we had no recourse to legal measures until the decision was taken. And once the decision was taken, we wasted no time in going to the Supreme Court to fight against the decision of 5th August 2019.
While you were under detention talking to your party colleagues, one would get a sense they're trying some sort of an outreach program. They're trying to reach out to grassroots level workers this way or that way. But
No,
ever since,
which political workers did I meet in
no. I'm saying your colleagues who were out, when we spoke to them, they said,
who did I speak
no,
to?
I'm saying they were trying to reach
but
out.
in detention, which party
No,
leaders
but
did I
now
speak
that you are out of detention, did you try to reach out? Did you try to meet party cadre? Did you try to get in touch with them? Did you try to streamline the process once again? If no, why, sir?
There is no process at the moment. There is no process at the moment because at the moment so many of your senior leaders are under detention. I mean, my general secretary is detained at home in spite of his PSA being overturned by the High Court. My provincial president is under detention. So many other senior leaders, former ministers and MLAs are under detention. But yes, if you are asking whether there is any regular contact with party workers between myself and Dr. Saab, there is a very healthy interaction, particularly over the telephones with the National Conference grassroots workers.
Your critics, who also happen to be senior political commentators, they say Omar Abdullah is trying to end up being in knots. He's tying knots around himself, and Omar Abdullah, who would not want to get into controversies, is contradicting himself and then giving way too many explanations. How do you react to that?
Please point out a contradiction.
Statehood, the issue of
There
statehood.
is no contradiction. Please point out no. These so-called commentators, where were they after 5th August 2019? Where were their commentaries? I read your newspaper in detention. Where were these commentators? Where were their op-ed pieces? Where were their editorials? Where were their letters to the editor? Where did they disappear? If I tell you, all the evils rest in me. All the faults are mine. Where is the goodness in you? Where were you people? I'm sorry, but please point out to me, where was your commentary while all of us were locked up? Not about us, about J&K special status, about 370, about everything that has happened. I don't recall a single op-ed piece. And I read your newspaper after my first 5 weeks of detention every single day. It's the only newspaper that I made sure I got every day that it was printed. And I don't remember a single op-ed piece by any of these so-called commentators. So these people who happily sit in judgment over me also owe an explanation to people where they were. But chalo, leave that aside. You please point out to me, where have I tied myself in knots?
Tongue in cheek, they say Omar Abdullah is desperate to come back to power.
What power do I want? I am telling you myself I'm not fighting elections, so what power do I want? No, but reverse your thing. Please point out a contradiction to me.
Mr. Omar Abdullah, more than contradiction, it's about...
No, sorry, I'm not going to let you just bypass this question.
Okay.
Point out a contradiction to me.
Things that are contradictory in nature. The comment on China, the comment on Indo-China tensions on the LSE. You end up deleting your Twitter handle.
Sorry.
You come back on Twitter, handful of Twitter social media users.
One minute. That is not contradictory. I expressed an opinion that people here, some Twitter warriors, were unhappy with. But it wasn't contradictory. I felt it, I said it. Now you can like it or not like it, that's up to you. And these Twitter warriors who got onto their keyboards and started attacking me were the ones who were silent after 5th August 2019. Where was this bravado then? Some of them work with big TV channels. Where was this bravado when their channels were celebrating what happened on August 5th, 2019? This bravado of theirs disappears. And yet they have the audacity to point fingers at me. But I want to make the point. The China tweet was not contradictory. I am asking you again. Please point out an instance where I have contradicted myself since I was released from detention. One instance.
Mr. Abdullah, there are people who are underscoring the simple fact that you have gone ahead to write an op-ed piece in the Indian Express where you're talking about statehood, return of state. I would contest election on...
My last paragraph was simply about the fact that having been a member of the J&K State Legislative Assembly, I do not see myself as a member of the J&K this UT Assembly. last paragraph. But please tell me where that paragraph contradicts anything I've said in that article. Where have I contradicted myself? I have given interviews after that to, I'll name them for you: Indian Express, The Hindu, Wire, The Print, KNS. And now to you. Please point out an instance to me where I have contradicted.
Fair enough.
So this attempt is being made to portray as if I have said that all I'm interested in is statehood and I don't care about anything else. Whereas in every single interview, I have made this point that we do not accept what happened on the 5th of August 2019. And we will fight with every resource at our disposal to have that betrayal overturned. Where is the contradiction in that?
As we speak, there's a clampdown, a complete clampdown outside. Internet becomes the first casualty of any law and order problem in Jammu and Kashmir. Do you think it's really unfair for people, for students, for traders? Internet is snapped, speed is throttled, we have restrictions outside.
Of course it's unfair. The BJP has sold this narrative everywhere that Kashmiris are so happy with what happened on 5th of August 2019. If Kashmiris are happy, why are they not celebrating the anniversary today? Why curfew? There should be celebrations. You should be hearing fireworks. You should be hearing people putting posts on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere complimenting the government for what they did. Why don't you see that? Why is it that 1 year later, it's now a few hours from now, it will be 1 year, we've not had 4G connectivity here? If people are happy with what happened in 2019, why have we been kept, why has 4G been denied us? And you rightly pointed out, it has had an impact on the very basic livelihoods of people. A small example, the mining contracts that were given for mining in our rivers and sand extraction and things like that. Not a single local mining person was able to participate in those contracts because 2G internet speeds meant that they were not able to put in bids. You've had a corona shutdown since March. Children have not gone to school. In fact, children in Kashmir have not gone to school since July of last year. And even online classes are not possible. In the rest of the country, children are doing lessons on Zoom, on WhatsApp video, on other video apps. It's only here that children are having to do lessons with text. So, I mean, it's all very well for the BJP to claim that people are celebrating. But if this is celebration with the curfew imposed, then I think there's something very wrong with their interpretation.
How do you foresee the future course of action with regard to the mainstream politics in Jammu and Kashmir?
I don't know. I'm being honest with you. I don't know how much space and acceptability there is for mainstream politics in Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, I'll go a step further. I don't even know how much space there is for moderate separatist politics in Jammu and Kashmir today. I don't know how much sentiment and mood has been hardened by what happened on the 5th of August 2019. And my inability to understand this stems from the fact that we've not been able to have normal political interactions the way we used to. So I don't know what response there will be when I travel into rural or interior areas of Kashmir and try and gauge the mood of people. We'll have to wait and see, but it's not a question that I have an answer to. I don't know. I think it's fair to assume that there has been a setback to mainstream political space. How much of a setback, we'll have to wait and see.
Maharashtra sprang a surprise earlier this year when 3 political parties, 2 of them regional, came together. Can we expect that sort of a coalition in Jammu and Kashmir ever, if at all democratic politics is back on track?
No, now again, if I answer this question, I'll be accused of preparing the grounds for government formation. I don't care for it. There are much bigger fights ahead of us. I have no interest in forging pre-poll coalitions for political parties just for the sake of chair or government. That is not my interest. We are fighting a bigger fight at the moment, and our fight is to ensure that we get justice from the Supreme Court. These coalition talks and government formation and stuff like that. Honestly, hand to God, I have absolutely zero interest in this at the moment.
Thank you for speaking to us. This was former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mr. Omar Abdullah throwing light on Article 370 and a host of issues in a candid conversation with GK Web TV. With camera person Khan Mudassir in Srinagar, this is Saqib Malik.
Subscribe to our channel and push the bell icon to get video notifications on your smartphone.